Perek Beis, Gimel, Daled, and Hey spoke about the Nefesh Elokis. Beis was Etzem, Gimel was Koiches, Daled was Levushim. Yes? And then we spoke about Teira and Mitzvahs, how through Teira and Mitzvahs, through the Levushim, Teira and Mitzvahs, we Atmas Amos. Perek Vav, Zayin Ches, is Nefesh HaBahamis. That's it. Vehine, Perek Vav, Inizel, Yumazeh, Asalakim. They're equal and opposite. Kikimaish and Nefesh Elokis, just like the godly soul consists, Klula consists of 3 dimensions: an essence, a form, and an expression. Etzem, Koiches, Levushim, Perek Beis, Perek Gimel, Perek Daled. Yeah, the same is true with Nefesh HaBahamis. Nefesh HaBahamis has an Etzem, which the Alter Rebbe completely ignores. He doesn't Bechlal mention Etzem and Nefesh HaBahamis. But then the Nefesh HaBahamis has Koiches, like Nefesh Elokis has Koiches. Chabad and Chagas and Nehi. And Nefesh HaBahamis has Levush. And it says Klula Meyesa Sfiras Kadeshis. The Nefesh Elokis has an essence and 10 Sfiras. The essence is Perek Beis, the 10 Sfiras is Perek Gimel. And by the way, you could ask a Kasha Elokeda, it shouldn't say Sfiras Kadeshis. It should say Koiches. Because Nefesh Elokis is not Sfiras, Sfiras is Atzilas. V'tzorach here. U'misabeshes, and it reveals itself and expresses itself. B'shleish levushim kadeshim, the 3 holy garments. Parenthesis, whenever you do Torah or mitzvahs, you're using the garments of Nefesh Elokis. Whenever you eat pizza or hot dogs, you're automatically using the garments of Nefesh HaBahamis. In other words, if you made a bracha on a piece of pizza, you made a mezenis, the minute you were making the bracha, you're Nefesh Elokis. When you're eating the pizza, it depends. If it's kavan l'Hashem Shemayim, it's still Nefesh Elokis. If it's not kavan l'Hashem Shemayim, it switches from Nefesh Elokis to Nefesh HaBahamis. You know, the switches are, but people like us, we're changing garments about 10 times a second. That's why we're so tired, because we're constantly changing from Nefesh Elokis to Bahamas. We don't experience it as a change, but in fact, you're shifting from the Levush of Nefesh Elokis to the Levush of Nefesh HaBahamis, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The soul, which comes from the other side, you'll find out later today what the other side means, which is from Klippas Nega. Which is manifest in the blood of a human being, also has these 3 dimensions: an essence, which the Rebbe doesn't discuss at all. He doesn't talk. There's no Perek Beis for Nefesh Harishin b'Yisrael. He chelik behema mimat mamish. He doesn't have such a Perek. And then he says, it consists of 10 crowns of filth. The word kesa means makiv, because klipa is not one with its own kedusha. Because if we one with its own kedusha, we become ois. Shein, which are the 10 koiches of Nefesh HaBahamis. What should come now? What should the next words be? The next word should be Shalish Oimis, Chabad, and Sheva Kfulis. Yeah, the Alter Rebbe all of a sudden forgot the order. Sheva Midas Reis, the 7 evil emotions. Habois Ma'arbois Seidas Roim Hanal, which come from the 4 evil elements discussed in the end of chapter 1. V'Seichel HaMelidin, and the brain that creates them. Hanechlak L'Sholish, which is divided up into 3: Shein Chochma, Bina, Vadas, wisdom, understanding, knowledge. The creative power, the thorough departmentalizing power, and the personalizing power of the intelligence of a person, Makeda means, which is such of the human emotions. What's the kasha? The Alter Rebbe is saying Zel Yumazeh, and he says it upside down. The Nefesh HaBahamis has 7 emotions and a mind. Why? I'll tell you why. And I'll use the dogma that Rebbe always used to use by Fabrengenish. A human being is vertical. Animals are horizontal. They walk this way. Don't ask me about birds and chimpanzees, because it's not a year now. The difference between being vertical and horizontal means vertical means upright. Horizontal means cross, flat. Is that when you walk horizontally, the head and the heart and the acharayim, the rear, are on the same madrega. So you have a brain, but the heart limits the brain to itself. You have a heart, and your behind limits your heart to itself. In other words, all animals are nehi lobotomized. They have a mind that could be studying and so on, but their selfishness, their short-sightedness, and in the human Nefesh HaBahamis, the worriedness of the behemoth, those are the 3 qualities. Selfish, short-sighted, and in a person worried. Don't let the brain expand its horizons and say, if it doesn't taste good, I'm not interested. I told you this 100 times. The problem in America is not that people don't believe in God. They don't care about God. If they hated God, it would be good. Why? God doesn't taste good. It doesn't give me pleasure. The heart limits the interest of the brain. And the nehi, which is a much lower function of the human emotions, the metabolic function of the body, limits the emotions. Real kindness is not an issue. Real beauty is not an issue to the behemoth. Why? Because each third reduces the higher third to itself. A human being, the head is higher than the heart. So the brain is free to explore and to find truth and to be interested in objective truths. The heart has the capacity for real emotion, of kindness and love and generosity. And the Nehi doesn't impair the Chabagas, and the Chagas doesn't impair the Chabad. So although it's Zel Yumazeh, it's not the same. It's equal, but it's opposite. In an animal, they have a brain and a heart. and in the human animal. They have a brain in the heart. The heart says to the human brain, to the animal brain, I know you're creative. I know you could study abstract ideas. Not, I don't believe you. I don't care. And because the heart says to the brain, I don't care, the brain says, okay, I won't study it. Everything is upside down. The heart limits the brain. The selfish, short-sighted, worried heart impairs the otherwise ideal and objective mind. And he explains, although it's true that in an animal, the heart governs the brain, but when we grow up, we do get a little bit bigger, because the brain does grow. Even though we're not going to be interested in God, but we're interested in higher things, that the heart is according to the mind. A child, desires and loves small things of little worth. Because his mind is is small and narrow, lahasik from intellectually reaching things of greater value. A child is interested in candies, covet, a few dollars, right? As we grow up, we're interested in higher things. V'chein, similarly, miskasi gets angry or miskatzev is even more than anger, midvarim from little things. V'chein v'yispoides, same is true when he boasts about nonsense. Ush'ar amidas and the remaining attributes. So your heart limits your brain on the one hand, but on the other hand, as your brain grows, you become more sophisticated. An adult person is still a behemoth, still selfish and short-sighted and worried, but about bigger things. Says the Alter Rebbe like this: these 10 unclean aspects, when a person thinks about them, in other words, uses them to think, or speaks, or does. In other words, you use your brain to study chemistry, which is klipa. Use your heart to get excited about a movie, which is klipa. Page 29. The thought which is in your brain, and the word, the mouth, the speech which is in your mouth. The power of action which is in your hand, the shad of the rest of your limbs. Nikraim at that moment they would be called levushim esabu. Filthy garments, to these 10 unclean aspects. Because the body of the person is being dressed by these klipa garments, when we're doing the klipa, we're speaking the klipa, and we're doing the thought. And this doesn't necessarily mean Avedis. The Nefesh HaBahamis is Lavush, not Avedis. It's behemius. It's animal. It's klipa. Even Teves heter, kosher, but it's not Avodas Hashem. It's from the Teves heter. It's from the Nefesh HaBahamis. You levushim machshavadi ma'at nefesh halakis only when you're learning and doing mitzvahs, and of course when you're eating l'shem shamayim and so forth. But when you're involved in gashmis, for gashmis' sake, even if it's kosher, use the levush Nefesh HaBahamis. And the Alter Rebbe explains v'hein what constitutes klipa. That you're using the 3 garments of the Nefesh HaBahamis while you're engaging in those exercises. Kol ha'masim v'shenasim tachas hashemesh. Anything done under the sun, not necessarily an Aveda, the so-called neutral that Chassidus teaches us does not exist, is included in the function of the garments of the Nefesh HaBahamis. She'asher akel hevel, that anything that was gashmis by itself is substanceless. V'ro'es ruach, it's of an evil spirit. They break the spiritual spirit, the godless spirit, and so forth. V'chein, similarly, kol hadiburim, any words, v'chol machshavos, any thoughts. Asher leila v'ayeh, when they're not for the sake of Hashem, or they're tzeni into His will, or thus into His service, they automatically keep them. We don't have 3 souls: a bad soul, a good soul, and a neutral soul. We have only 2. Why? So here comes one of the most important and controversial pages in the whole Tanya. Okay? And I'm going to try to make this quick, but I have to tell you this introduction. There's 2 madregas in Teira. Nigla Teira and Pnimius. Okay? What's the difference between Nigla and Pnimius? Nigla is dafka leiba shamayim. It's not in heaven. It's on earth. Right? Like the Rambam brings the Lashon Sofel Chasmura, Dibra Teira, Yard the Teira, let's say, Daite Shal Adam, Ulektsas Yitzrasi Arad, Dibra Teira Neged Yetzahara, it says by Yefas Teir. The Teira anticipates Yav Yetzahara. Teira in this world knows the fact of Yetzahara. And it addresses it. In this world, there's 3 categories. Choiv, what you have to do. Kedusha. Issa, what you're not allowed to do. Shalosh Kubas Meis Agam. And the Shus, do whatever you want. And in Nigel the Teira, the Shus is the Shus, do what you want. Don't worry. It's kosher, have to. It's permitted, buy it more expensive. It's permitted, waste more time. The Ramban says, Kedoshim Ti, you can become a novel b'shus HaTeira. You're completely from, don't do a single Aveda. And because you're not Makayim, Kadesh Atzvacha b'mutalach, you call them a novel. But the Ramban is Kabbalah already. In Nigla the Teira, there's 3 categories. What's Pnimiyas HaTeira? Pnimiyas HaTeira has 2 categories. Kedusha and everything else. In other words, if we were in Gan Eden, we would see that if it's not a mitzvah, it's an Aveda. Not if it's not an Aveda, it's okay. Like the Lashon. If it's a metarnish, if it's a memeg, dafman. If you're allowed, I must. What's metarnish, that we can find in a hete. Hashem says not allowed, I have to find a hete. That's a nigladika perspective. In this world, why can't I eat it? It's kosher. But l'maylet fakir, what's metarnish, tarminish, or what's memeg, you have to weigh if you need it. Because Chassidus teaches us Teira Bashamayim. And in Teira Bashamayim, there's no rishus. There's nothing is permitted. If it ain't good, it's evil. That's it. If it serves Hashem, it can't do today, it's a good thing. Otherwise, it's hevel v'roisruch. It's pustumvist. And therefore, there's only 2 categories. Sitra the Kedusha and Sitra Achra. The side of holiness and the other side, there's no middle. Now, when you learn this, Tanya, your first reaction is, oh, yeah, I'm such a big Russia. It's devastating. I eat pizza and I enjoy it. It's klipa. But it's honest. It gives you a whole new look at Yiddishkeit. The world look at Yiddishkeit as I got to do the mitzvahs and I got to live my life. The Chassidus look at Yiddishkeit, my life is Yiddishkeit, and besides Yiddishkeit I have nothing. Like the Alter Rebbe explained to Tanya Perek Lamed Aleph, Kol Yoma b'tshuva. Why do I exist? To do tshuva. But I didn't do any Avedis. No, tshuva is not about Avedis. Tshuva is about connecting to Hashem. That's why I exist in this world. And from this point of view, there's no neutral. And this is the mitzvahs I say that the Alter Rebbe brings, that's a Deiraisa, Perek Chav Zayin, from the Haredim of Iskafia. It's permitted, and I don't need it. And as the Ramban says in Eish Pashas Kedoshim, Kedoshim Tihiyu, it's not an Aveda, you don't need it, be holy. Otherwise you're a novel. It's like a Bershus HaTeira, but it's disgusting. It's nivel. And this is the Chiddush of this page 20, page Daf Yudam Beis and Tanya. The Alter Rebbe makes many references to this page that basically says there's no such thing as neutral. In Nigle, in Teira Ba'aretz, there's 3. Chayv, Reshus, Iser and Reshus. In Pnimiyas, there is only 2. Chayv and otherwise. Yiddishkeit and the opposite of Yiddishkeit. Because if it ain't Kedusha, it's automatically Klip. Says the Rebbe Shazeu, Pirish Lashon Sitra Achra, which is the translation of the word Sitra Achra. In Nigle, there's something which is in between. In Pnimiyas, there's no in between. Klippas Nega is Klippa, that's the message. Klippas Nega is not neutral, it's Klippa. You know why it's Klippa? Because it's Sitra Achra, it's the other side. Pirish. What is the translation of Sitra Achra? Tzad Achra, the other side. She'eni, Tzad HaKedusha, which is not the side of holiness. V'Tzad HaKedusha Eini, the side of Kedusha is nothing. Ella Hashra V'Hamshacha, which manifests. The word Hashra deserves more attention. We don't have time for it, but Alter Rebbe discusses it in the Kedesh Chav Gimel. What does the word Hashra mean? It rests in an unchanging way. V'Hamshacha, and it brings down Kedusha Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the holiness of the Eibishter. Kedusha means that Hashem is here. Now boys, listen to me. There are 2 criteria. For something to be Kedusha, it has to have 2 rules. The Alter Rebbe brings rule 2 first. Because rule 2 is the real Raya. To be Kedusha requires 2 things. Number 1, bittul to Hashem. Number 2, because it's bittul to Hashem, Hashem rests. You hear? If Hashem doesn't rest, it's a simon that it's not bottle. If it's bottle, Hashem will automatically rest. He says, Kedusha is Hashra, a manifestation in an unchanged way. V'hamshach, and a revelation, bringing down the Shatash Allah Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Hashem. Ve'eina Kadosh Baruch Hu Sheira, Hashem cannot rest, El al davar, only on something which a bottle, let's say, is Baruch, which is nullified to him. So rule number 1 is to be Kedusha, have to be served the Eibishter. B'chol rega v'rega, there's no piece of me which is not Avodas Hashem. Bittul. And therefore, automatically, there will be rule number 2 that the Shekhinah is there. Bein b'peil mamish, ke malachim al yenim. Many things are bottled in fact like malachim. And now comes a chiddush nifla, bein b'keach. It's possible to bottle and not know it. Ke chalish Yisrael lamata. Every Jew in this world, shebekoicha, that has the potential and the possibility, lias bottle lamamis l'kabei Kadosh Baruch to be notified that Eibishter. When will you see this bittul? B'mesiris nafja al kedushas Hashem, when he sacrifices his life al kiddush Hashem, as we're going to have in Tanya Perek Yud Ches and Yutes, the Inyan Mesiras Nefesh al kiddush Hashem, which comes from the so-called pintele yid. Yeah. So a yid has that pintele. He may not know it. Because he has a pintele, though he doesn't know it, the Shekhinah is already resting on a yid. The bittul he doesn't know, but the Shekhinah is already there because the koyach of bittul is present. So what is the point? The point is kedusha is bittul. Lamaila has to be bittul b'payil, and in a yid lamata it's bittul b'koyach. There's a potential of bittul, and therefore the Shekhinah rests. Otherwise, it's sitra achra. It's simple. You're not batal l'Eibishter, you sit rach. Right? I'm a nice person, I don't bother nobody. If it's not kedusha, it's klipa. Which it says in the Chazal, which is again, it's quoted in the Gersa Chav Gimel, about the word shriya. One person sits and studies Shechina Shriya Chol the Shechina manifest. And if you have 10, the Shechina always rests. The diak of the Eilam Beisach nicht. But the Alter Rebbe in the Gersa Chav Gimel, the 23rd letter, distinguishes, separates between when one person learns, or two people learn, or three people learn, or five people learn, and a minyan. The idea of a kol be'asar shchinta shari is be'ikir by a minyan. The shruya, the hashra of one, or two, or three, or five, the Alter Rebbe says it's a brocha, it's a gili of ha'ara, of ziv. The atzmus of shchina is dafka when you have a minyan. But be that as it may, when you do a inyan of kedusha, the Eibishter rests. So you have here a chiddush nifla. And the chiddush nifla is that if it ain't kedusha, it's klip. And therefore, the idea that you have levushim of your nefesh habahamis, it's not only that you're using these levushim when you're doing an aveda. You're using these levushim when you're doing a non-mitzvah. Because klippas nega is not so bad. Klippas nega, you take a hammer, you crack the shell, you bring out the light, and it's been transformed. But klippas nega, as it is right now, is klippa. You know why? It's not batal l'Eibishter, and if the Shechina doesn't rest.
So this ends the current shiur.